Welcome back. And if you're new here, welcome for the first time. Did you just get a Cricut for Mother's Day, for Christmas, for your birthday? You have no idea what to do with it. Maybe you're just thinking about getting a Cricut. You're not sure what you can do with it, what you can't. Is it worth it? It's really expensive. Should you go for it? This is the video series for you. So if you're new here, my name is Nati, this is DIY Diaz, and we cover all kinds of craft tutorials. So what we're doing today is we're starting a whole brand new series that's all dedicated to the Cricut. So I'm going to call this like a Cricut Academy, sort of like Cricut 101, starting from the very beginning. So if you have absolutely no idea what to do with this new Cricut, you bought it, you're so excited, it's still sitting in the box, or maybe you're still just waiting to pull the trigger on that purchase, this is the video series for you. Like, we're going to start from the very beginning, what it is, what it isn't, what you can do with it moving forward, and what to expect. What other things do you need to buy to go along with it? And then how do you go about doing all these projects? So this video is the very basics, just the introduction of what the Cricut is and what it isn't. Follow along, tune in every week. We'll do another video with what you can expect going forward. By the end of this whole video series, you should be well versed in Cricut. You should be able to do a few different projects, from making t-shirts to making cards to all kind of other things in between. So follow along for more. Please make sure to subscribe, like the video, that helps the channel out, and I'll be able to give you all kind of new content. Also, comment down below if there's something else that you'd like to see. So let's start from the very, very beginning. What is a Cricut? Okay. So this is basically a die cutting machine. Some people also call them like cutting plotters, things like that. There are lots of different ways to go about it, but the main thing is it's a machine that cuts things. Okay, so die cutting comes back from these older machines. I actually still have one. There's still some out there that you can buy, where basically you get these like little stencil type things. You put it, you kind of sandwich it together. You put it through this roller. You roll the thing, and it's kind of very manual. It comes out. And then the piece of paper that you put like underneath of that stencil will be cut out, and that's considered a die cut. So sometimes you hear like die cut stickers, stencils, that sort of thing. That can be done through a die cut. So what a Cricut does, and other machines like it, is just an electronic version of that. So instead of using actual little die cut stencils or embossing folders or things like that that you would normally put through that type of machine, now you're using this electronic machine that's hooked up to a computer. So you cannot use a Cricut without some type of computer or an iPad. You can do it with an iPad also. But you need some kind of other computing device to go along with your Cricut, because you're taking the designs from that device, you're sending it to the Cricut, and it's cutting it out. That's the most basic standard part of it. It's cutting something out. Years before, like way before I actually spent the money and bought a Cricut, I actually used to use X-Acto knives. So I loved like intricate designs. I love crafting and cardstock and things like that. I do all kinds of crafts, but kind of cardstock and paper craft are kind of like my favorite of all time. So I used to take X-Acto knives and cut out these really intricate designs. It would take me hours, days, weeks, whatever. I even bought these books of like 3D origami architecture. I was really into that, like before Cricuts like really became household names, you know? And you can do that. You can still do that to this day. You can get what's called an SVG file. We'll talk about that later. And you can use an X-Acto knife, other, you know, box cutter, things like that, to just cut out intricate designs. Or you can just speed up that entire process and get a die cutting machine like a Cricut. Now, today's cutting machines can do so much more than just cut. So they've really evolved over time. So something like a Cricut can cut, but it can also emboss, which means like putting like indented design. I also used to do that separately with different tools and whatnot. But now the Cricut can do that. It can also cut different types of material. So not just paper, it can do vinyl. Heat transfer vinyl is what you would use for like a t-shirt. Even like thin types of wood, like balsa wood. You can do leather. You can do fabric even with special blades. So that's the great thing there, is that you can switch out the blades to do to cut different types of materials. There's also an attachment in there where you can insert markers and things like that, and then you can actually draw. So like, let's say you're going to a protest and you need a big old poster board. You can put the poster board, or a smaller size, what fits into your Cricut. You can put it in there and you can have it draw for you using a poster, you know? So many different operations that a Cricut can handle nowadays. So let's talk about what a Cricut isn't and what can't it do? Number one, because this is what I hear all the time, it is not a printer. Okay, I repeat, it is not a printer. It itself cannot print something out. It can write, like I mentioned, if you put a marker in there, it can like draw with a marker, just lines. It can't really color. It can just draw lines or like words, text with a marker, but it cannot actually physically print something out. So you can use a printer in conjunction with a cutting machine. And that's when you do something called print then cut. You'll hear that. We'll cover that later on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but you can use a printer together with a Cricut to print things out and then cut them, hence print then cut. However, the Cricut itself is not going to print anything out. There's no print heads in it. Another thing a Cricut does not do is transfer heat. So for example, I mentioned earlier heat transfer vinyl, or we shorten that to HTV. So basically, if you make a t-shirt, you see people make homemade t-shirts all the time, right? Birthday parties, family vacations, family reunions, all those things. People make t-shirts, right? Most of the time, they're using a Cricut. If they're doing it at home, they're using a Cricut or cutting machine like a Cricut. They're cutting out on the Cricut the heat transfer vinyl. They then need to take that heat transfer vinyl that has been cut into the design they want. They place it on the material, so say it's a t-shirt, and then you need to press it with heat. Now, some people use a full-on heat press. Some people use, Cricut came out with a line of what's considered easy presses, which means like basically a big iron, right? That has a little bit more force to it. Some people just use an iron, like an at-home iron. You can do that. It might not last long, but it is possible. The main thing is, at the end of the day, when it comes to heat transfer vinyl, in order for it to transfer, you need heat. So you need some kind of heat source and also pressure. That's very important. You need the heat plus the pressure to transfer that heat transfer vinyl onto that material like a t-shirt. So a Cricut itself does not apply the heat. Again, like the printer, you can use a heating element like a heat press. You can use that in conjunction with the Cricut, but you cannot use the Cricut itself to transfer heat onto something. So speaking of all the things that you need in conjunction with your Cricut, a Cricut in itself is not going to do it for you. You're going to need more items. You're going to need supplies and tools at the end of the day. So it does become quite expensive. You can get a Cricut on itself for a good price sometimes, especially, during some of the sales throughout the year, and especially if you get it for free during like Mother's Day or Christmas. That's great, of course, right? But you are still going to need more supplies. Now, there are so many supplies out there. There's so many different name brands at this point. So it gets very overwhelming. Like, what do I need? What don't I need? Do I absolutely need this for it to function? Or can I do without this for a while and just kind of go with what I have? So that's actually going to be the next video on this series. Shameless plug. So make sure you look out for that. And make sure you subscribe so you know when it's coming up. But I'll just talk very briefly that you do need a number of tools and supplies in order to make your Cricut work. So number one, like I mentioned earlier, is you absolutely need some kind of computing machine. So you need either a computer or you need like an iPad. I believe those are the only two ways to really make it work. There may be an iPhone app. I'm not sure if that connects. I've never tried that. That sounds like a headache to me. I'm a little bit old school, elder millennial here. Like I don't even do it on the iPad. I prefer the actual computer. This is Cricut Design Space right here. So I need to be able to see and to be able to design. So that's the main thing. You need this computing machine because you need their software. And that's what it's called, is Design Space, or really Cricut Design Space. So it's free. You can download it from online. You can save all kind of designs inside of it. We'll do multiple tutorials on how to use Cricut Design Space because it's always changing, it's evolving, it's giving us new tactics and new tools, which is great. I hope sometimes that they would speed that process up a little bit and give us a little bit more, but it is free to use. You can just download it from their website, and it is really great. I do love Cricut Design Space. Some people have a love-hate relationship with it. I actually love it because it's very simple to use. So again, looping back around, you need this computing machine because you need that Cricut Design Space, because that is what's going to connect to the Cricut itself and send the design that you make onto the Cricut, whether to cut, whether to emboss, or whether to draw it out with a marker or something. So the next section of this video is going to be a little bit controversial, just a little bit. And that's a question I get a lot. There's this other machine out there called a Silhouette. Whole nother brand. There's Cricut, there's Silhouette. There's some other brands out there too, but the big two that you're always going to hear is Cricut and Silhouette. Which one should I get? People do all kind of research. And at the end of the day, you're going to get people who are just like rah, rah, rah Cricut. You're going to get people that are like rah, rah, rah Silhouette. There are some people that will absolutely have nothing to do with Cricut. There are some people that have absolutely nothing to do with Silhouette. I think that they are both great brands. I've owned both at one point. I've owned both Silhouette and Cricut machines. Personally, what I love is the Cricut. That's going to be completely different from other people. I fully recognize that Silhouette has some features that Cricut does not have. Definitely. But there are also some features that Cricut has that just makes things easier that Silhouette has, that doesn't have, that just makes things a whole lot more difficult, I feel like. The best way that I can describe this whole debacle between Cricut versus Silhouette is the same way of Apple versus Android. Again, controversial. I know this. Some people are all about their Apple products. Some people are all about their Android. We all know that some have more than others. Some work one way than others. And some people just prefer one or the other. And that's your preference. That's the beauty in this world, that we have choices, right? So you have that choice. What I would say is Apple is comparable to Cricut in its ease of use and easy to kind of just jump in and get started. It's very user friendly. It's kind of locked down in your options, right? Very locked down in your options, but that's what makes it easier, because sometimes it feels like when you have too many options, it gets overwhelming, right? So Silhouette, in my opinion, sorry Silhouette, in my opinion, it's comparable to Android because there are more options, there are less limitations, but it's also kind of confusing because there's a lot going on, right? So that's just my quick basic comparison. You can chew me out in the comments if you like, but that's just how I feel. And at the end of the day, I have a Cricut, and guess what I have? I have an iPhone. Okay, so this is just how I feel. That's my personal preference. It's going to be different for you. So if you're more of an Apple type person and you're like, I don't even know how to jump into this, I would say it's probably easier to get started with a Cricut. If you want to transfer to a Silhouette later on, hey, you do you. I think that's a great idea. But if you're just completely lost in the sauce out here and you just want to know how to jump in, I personally would recommend Cricut. That's my recommendation. So let's talk about some of the different Cricut machines. I have the Cricut Maker. This one came about 2017, 2018. I want to say that's when I got mine. It was like right when it was like hot off the press. You couldn't tell me nothing. I had a Cricut Maker, right? Now we got like Cricut Maker 3, we got some other machines, Explorer, I don't even know how many Explorers. So a lot of times like the ones that you'll really see heavily discounted would be the Explorer. I don't know, there's like a 2, there's a 3, I believe. Those are great machines. Very comparable to the Maker. When I got the Maker, it was supposed to be like hot stuff, right? Now there's a Maker 3. I don't even really know what's the difference. My Maker is still kicking. I've had it, like 7-8 years now. It's still kicking. It's still doing great. And I've used it even for business. I've done t-shirt business. I've done all kind of stuff, and it's still kicking. The only thing is the handle, the lid doesn't really want to go all the way down now. I don't know what's up with that. But hey, Cricut, if you want to send me a new machine, I'd appreciate you, boo. Outside of that, I love my Cricut. I'm going to keep going with it until the wheels fall off, basically. And it's still kicking, like I said. So the Explorer machines, like I said, they're usually a little bit cheaper. They're not going to have all of the features that a Maker will have. A Maker will have some additional features that, like, they have like different blades, like the deep cut blade, for example. That's what a blade that you would need to be able to cut like wood, like that balsa wood I mentioned. To my understanding, the Explorer machines don't have that. Now, they still have the full functionality with Cricut Design Space, everything like that, but it's just some of the like cutting materials and some of the additional things you can't do with an Explorer machine, but you can still do almost everything else with the Explorer machine. If you're really just looking of like, should I just get my feet wet and buy a machine? An Explorer is a very good way to go. If you're like, you know what, I want to buy one machine and not have to upgrade it in a year or two, then maybe the Maker is where you want to go, and that's what I ended up doing. There are also 2 other machines to talk about. One is called the Cricut Joy. I do not have a Cricut Joy, so I can't speak directly to it. The interesting thing about the Cricut Joy is that it's small and compact. So if you have a smaller space, it's a very good way to start off. If you're only going to make small, like little personalized vinyl stickers or, you know, something like that, you're going to make smaller type items, a Cricut Joy is a good way to start off. For the most part, they don't use the standard size mats that you would see with a Cricut. So again, it's going to be smaller projects. there are a lot more limitations to a Cricut Joy. It's going to be way cheaper to start off. So if you just want to get your feet wet, jump in the game with something cheaper, smaller, Cricut Joy is the way to go. The complete opposite end of the spectrum is going to be the Cricut Venture. This is like my dream machine. I want a Cricut Venture so much. It's huge. Okay. So it's going to be comparable to like the more industrial or like commercial machines, I should say. Now, there are lots of brands out there that, from what my understanding, they're faster, they are quieter, they're more precise, they're bigger, they can, if you're doing a business, it's the way to go is get these like big, like commercial machines. They're going to be a lot more expensive. Cricut Venture, I feel like you get the whole Cricut experience. You still have Cricut Design Space. Everything kind of like is in the same system, which I love. So that's why, and I'm not doing a full-on business anymore with Cricut, with t-shirts and things like that. So personally, I feel like the Venture is a good way to go, especially if you just want to do bigger size projects for home, for your kids' parties, things like that. But if you're looking at doing a full-on business, then you might want to look at one of those commercial machines. Again, personally, I love Cricut. When I buy a new machine, hopefully it's sometime soon, I would like to buy a Venture because I like to see the different types of large projects and formats that I'd be able to work on, or just doing lots of things all at once. Like when we go on a family vacation and I make t-shirts for everybody, it would be really great if I can just do like one big old sheet on the Venture, and it's all done, So again, you got your Explore machines, you got your Maker machines, so slight upgrade from the Explorers. Then you got your Joy machine, that's the smaller guy, and you got your Venture machine, that's the biggest of them all, the granddaddy. And finally, I kind of just want to circle back around to why I recommend the Cricut. I do not regret my purchase in the least bit. And let me tell you something, I'm not rolling the dough. So when I first bought the machine, I had the biggest buyer's remorse because I was just like, I cannot afford this. Why do I even need this? I have a printer. I don't need this right now. I had bought the machine. I took it back to the store. I turned it in. I said, I need my money back. That I should not have spent that money. I definitely should not have. I was in the middle of like planning for a wedding and things like that. I was just like, I need that money elsewhere, right? About 2 weeks later, it just kept gnawing at me. I'm like, I need this machine. I need it. I'm going to use it for the wedding, right? For all the decorations and stuff. So I went back and I bought the machine again. Happened to be on sale then, so that worked out. I've never looked back since then. I would never even think about selling it in the least bit, giving it back, nothing. I love my machine. I have gotten my money's worth 10,000 times over at this point. I have done so many projects over the years. I mean, wedding invitations, kids' birthday parties. Like I said, I had a t-shirt business, all kinds of things. I mean, the possibilities are literally endless. We love to do like themed parties and movie nights. I do like Harry Potter. I'm a big Harry Potter fan. Not the transphobia part of the Harry Potter. We're going to cut this. We love to do themed parties, themed movie nights, all of these sort of things. And the Cricut just comes in clutch every single time. Not to mention just personalizing different items. And t-shirts. Again, I've made so many t-shirts. T-shirts, like, I'm kind of tired of t-shirts. I'm like the t-shirt lady now. People always ask me t-shirts. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm kind of tired of t-shirts. I love paper crafts. So I'm gonna focus more on that. But at the end of the day, whatever is your whatever tickles your fancy. You know what I mean? Like, whatever that you love, whether it's t-shirts or cards. A lot of people make it for use it for card making and stuff like that. Whatever. There's so many endless possibilities that you can use with your Cricut. 9 times out of 10, you are not going to regret it. I say go for it. If you're teetering on the edge, should I get it? Am I going to use it? Yes, you will. The only thing that I see that holds people back from using it or not is just not knowing how to use it and then getting overwhelmed with A, too many possibilities, B, too many tools and supplies out there, and C, too many tutorials out there that I feel like confuse people even more. I know it's really easy to go in and just get on Cricut Design Space and go da-da-da and make this cut and da-da-da. And then people are just like, but how did you get from point A to point B? And I know it can be very confusing. So I have worked the majority of my career in education. I still work in education to this day. It's a passion of mine. And it's something that I love to do is like just help people understand something. So if you look at any of my videos, I used to do more embroidery tutorials before. I'm going to come back around to that. But you can look in the comment section and people will say like, I really love this tutorial. Like you explained it so well, blah, 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 blah. I'm not here to like be conceited or anything like that. I'm just telling you that this is a really great series for you if you just really want to learn the basics from the very beginning. Now, if you already know some of the basics and you're like, I need to know how to go from like the basic stuff to the advanced, we're going to get there too. Stick around, please subscribe, and please even just watch the beginner's tutorials, because there might be something like very simple that you're missing that you didn't even know. So this would be a good chance to do that. So please, again, make sure to subscribe, like the video, drop a comment if you appreciate this, and let me know what you want to see. Like, what is it that you want to know if there's something that you've been confused about? Because I plan to make these videos every single week. I'm going to post a video every single week because I want to get more consistent on my channel. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in today. Make sure to tune in for the additional videos. The very next one is going to be all about the supplies, tools that you need for Cricut, what you need, what you don't need. So make sure you tune into that one. See you soon. Thanks for watching.